It's time to focus on seniors with Helping Seniors TV. The television show designed to make you aware of senior issues and needs, as well as to acquaint you with the resources available to help you age in place and with dignity. Now, here's your host, Joe Steckler.
I'm Joe Steckler, and welcome to Helping Seniors, the television arm of Helping Seniors of Brevard County. Our show is designed to provide you with information on how to develop your own aging and care plans. And our topic today is guardianship and case management. Joining me is Robin Phemister of Solutions by R.E.P.S Incorporated and Lisa Hodgins of R.E.P.S Incorporated. And I'll get both of them to explain to you exactly what those two organizations are, because a lot of people don't understand acronyms, and we did a lot of acronyms in the Navy. But we won't talk Navy today. We'll talk civilianese, and I'll talk with you, Robin, and you, Lisa. Robin, first, tell our viewers exactly what your company is and what you do and how the two of you work together.
Okay. So my company is Solutions by R.E.P.S. We do care management. We do case management's another term for it. And I'm also a professional guardian and do guardianship when I'm appointed by the court. I started my company in 2010. We have Lisa and I share an office together, which is quite nice. We're right on New Haven in Melbourne. So
okay.
Convenient, although we don't get much walk-in traffic, but it is convenient for us.
We're going to talk about why you don't get much walk-in traffic, because guardianship needs, case management needs come through referrals mostly, I think. But what is exactly case management? When you use the word case management, it's sort of synonymous with care management, but I think it started out as case management, then it sort of went to care management. What do you prefer to call it?
So I'm going to defer to Lisa for that piece of it.
Okay, all right, okay. Lisa, what is your part of this? What does your company do?
My company is R.E.P.S Inc., and that's Reliable Elderly Protection Services, and that's a lot of words, which is why we call it R.E.P.S Inc. Like I said, Robin and I do share an office space together, and I'm also a professional guardian and care manager. And as a care manager, what we do is how we help people that are capacitated. You know, court hasn't deemed them incapacitated, so they have the capacity, but maybe they're lacking some of the things that their body used to be able to do. Like my mother, for example, I've been helping her for years. She has macular degeneration, can't see to write her checks. So I pay her bills for her, and she needs everything large print. So we've made a customized address book for her with large print, or we pay her bills for her. So different clients, that's one of the things we do is case management. We help them pay bills. We may file for benefits for them. We might have to help coordinate medical. A lot of them have so many. They get 5 or 6 doctors, and trying to juggle that for one person gets very complicated. So we try to put a system in place to kind of help with the medical, make sure they're getting to their appointments. Do they need a companion to assist them? Do they need somebody to order the medications? Or maybe we need a nurse case manager to come on board to help. If it's a very complicated medication case, I have a client that I'm a case manager for that has diabetes and has a lot of health issues. So we've contracted with an RN case manager that does that specific part to make sure she's staying on track with her medications, she's being compliant and not taking too much, she's doing it correctly. And she helps coordinate the medical side, and then I'll help her pay her bills and get her on a budget and help her live within her budget and those kind of things.
I think what you're going to hear today from Robin and Lisa are some very basic instruments of care that if you access them early on, you're going to save yourselves a pile of money, save yourself a lot of grief, and you're going to be able to help your family member as they get older and help them or enable them to age with dignity. I also want to say, Robin and Lisa, that I mentioned to both of you before the show started that I think that good, honest case management and guardianship are extremely important in developing what I call really good aging plans. It's really a part of estate planning if you think about it. We talk about financial management, we talk about property management, and we talk about legal management, but the management of the body and a person is something that we neglect. From the two of you working together, with Lisa doing the case management and you doing the guardianship, I think, and actually I think both of you do guardianship, don't you?
We do both.
Why do you think, Robin, that having for people to have a better understanding of what you do as a guardian, why it's so important, and how does that quite often prevent family squabbles when we have contested guardianship?
And that's a tricky one. I come in as a third party, sometimes a fourth or a fifth party, depending on how many family members are squabbling. I'm there to represent the ward, the person in need. And so, coming in with that interest, it is paramount. I always attempt to work with the family. The more they're in support of the plan of care and, the direction and the needs of the ward, if they can assist in any way, it saves that client so much money. Saves them from, my having to arrange services with strangers, with transportation companies, if the family can support the goal, support mom and dad, it's always the best route to take. Unfortunately, that's not the case with many of my clients. Most of them have been exploited by family or by strangers, the people that they thought were their support network. And now they're in a position where they've maybe lost thousands and thousands of dollars because money was misappropriated or spent for someone else's behalf and not for that person.
As a guardian, though, I've been given to understand that if a person is appointed as a guardian, you have to make designated reports on the financial status of the person's wealth or their income.
That's true.
How do you do that? Or how often do you do that?
Okay. At the point you're appointed as the guardian.
Okay.
And if it's an emergency guardian, that's for a temporary period of time. It could be
Right.
up to 90 days and could be renewed another 90 days if necessary. Then there's a plenary hearing where a determination is that the person does not have capacity and a permanent guardian needs to be appointed. There's varying levels of guardianship. It can be limited if the ward can retain some rights and do some things still independently. But regardless, as far as the reporting is concerned, initial reports are due to the court within 60 days of being appointed plenary guardian. An initial guardianship plan that addresses the social needs and medical needs and residential location of that person, and an initial verified inventory is also due within 60 days. That verified inventory is a snapshot of that person's assets and benefits and personal property as of the time the guardianship was appointed. So as of the emergency date or the plenary date, whichever was applicable. And then annually, and it's based on the anniversary date, annual guardianship plan and an annual accounting of every penny spent, and then a snapshot picture of the assets at the time.
That's a change from what it was just a few years ago. How long have accounting tools like that been in place? Are you aware?
I use a model that's provided on the clerk's website.
Many years ago, I had a family call me and say, Joe, can you help us do anything? I said, what's the situation? It turned out that an attorney had been hired and set up as the guardian appointed by the court, and in less than a year's time, that attorney had spent $320,000 of that client's assets on round-the-clock nursing care in a nursing home. The client ran out of the money, ended up curled up in a fetal position in a nursing home close by where we're talking today, had nothing left. The family was unable to do anything. I even went to the state attorney general, and he said, Joe, it's been put in place by the law that we can't violate it. So I think that the moral of the story here is to be better informed about what case management is, what it can do, and what guardianships can do if they're put in place the right way. Anytime you get a contested guardianship and people are forced on somebody, you already are, you're not meshing, you're just driving people apart. And that's so important. Do you see a lot of that in your work, both of you? Lisa?
Yes. I think what I see, and I've had several of my cases have been, I have guardianship of the husband and the wife because the son and the daughters, they just don't get along. But once we come on board and we, they see that, my job is to make sure mom and dad are taken care of, they're in a safe place. I have, we have to use prudent investor rule for managing their finances, so it's very protected. They're kind of protected. Then the son and daughter can be the son and daughter. They don't have to worry about managing the money and where's the money going? He's blowing the money, or she's spending all the money. It's all taken care of and preserved. And what Robin didn't mention was when the accountings are turned into the court, they're audited. There's a whole team of auditors that review every line item that we're turning in that's being done, and they make sure it all reconciles with the bank statements. And they will send us a letter saying, hey, we have a question about this line item. It is very audited now. Maybe it didn't used to be, but we see it's very audited.
Do you, either one of you, have any idea how many case management and guardianship organizations there are right now in Brevard County?
I recently heard there's about 30 guardians.
Around 30?
That's what I heard. But we only know a few that we've worked with. But
I can remember years ago, there were not very many guardianships or people working as guardians in the county. So the general population was forced to make some very difficult decisions on who is going to be representing them. So what you're saying is that's changed a little bit now.
But it has. I'm also, Lisa and I both are members of the Florida State Guardianship Association.
Okay.
I serve on the executive board as treasurer. I know we have 440 members, close to 500 members generally throughout the year. I'm proud of the actions that we're taking. I'm proud of the legislative committee. I'm proud of the different committees that serve to improve the quality of guardianships statewide. And, I've heard it referred to as the silver tsunami. You may have your own clever name, but, we are the area where people retire to. We are the area maybe where this is going to be the final resting place. And so we naturally have more seniors in Florida and senior-related issues, case management and guardian being one of them.
I know that when you talk about cost of services, that's a difficult thing. And I could only ask you for a ballpark like thing, but let's talk about case management first. If a person needed case management, and just what would you, or could you say, Lisa, what the average cost would be for a case management type case, just somebody that needed general services?
It kind of, like I said, ranges on what the person's real needs are. How much case management they actually need. Is it just financial? Is it medical? And I have people, like a lady I'm helping that's, her only income Social Security. She doesn't have a lot of income, and I'm just trying to keep her safe and keep her in home. I charge really very little, like it ranges $35 to $60, or it might be even more, up to even $100. Some people might even go higher than that, but I try to work out their budget. What can they afford? In some case, I had to do a flat rate, and so many seniors, they just don't have the income. So we try to work as best we can. We still have to, maintain our office and staff, and people to help us. So we do what we can to help them as best we can. I think our goal, really, for case management is do what we can to keep that person safe and at home. I mean, most people, they want to be able to stay at home as long as they can. And that's what we really endeavor to work
but a
at.
lot of people have a mistaken idea that they can't afford an attorney services. And I know so many attorneys that try to debunk that theory because they tell, and I've had people call me back after I sent them to some attorneys, and the attorney will sit down and talk to them. The consultation is free, and they'll tell them what they, as an attorney, what they think they need. Then the family has to make a decision whether or not they want to access the services of that attorney. The same thing goes for case management.
Yeah, we
You
do that
talk
too.
to people and you tell them what you think they need. And then based on what you see they have and what they need, you have to make a living. They need to be taken care of properly. But my thrust in this thing from the case management side is that for people to understand it is a service that more people need to think about. Why is it important for people to know more about case management? You think about guardianship. I'm going to ask you the same question.
In my opinion, what I've seen, and the people that I'm helping, they don't have any family. They may not have children, or their family is all spread out throughout the country, not able to assist. They need somebody locally to help them. And they can't, like I said, whether it's a vision problem, whether it's, they're getting overwhelmed with banking matters or all the medical, they need that extra help, and they just, they may not have somebody locally to help them. The importance of them having a case manager come on board before worse things happen to them, like you mentioned earlier, before something critical happens, have things set up in place so that if something happens and you go to the hospital, who's going to speak for you? Setting up, we would encourage them to, speak with someone to get a healthcare surrogate set up, make sure your advanced directives are set up, who knows what your wishes are. When people don't have family support or, or trustworthy people that they can count on.
You are describing what an elder law attorney does, and you're talking about at a much lesser rate.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to take a business away from attorneys, because attorneys are called for at certain levels of care. But you as a case manager can go at a much lower level, do the same service they do, essentially. You don't do the legal part of it,
No.
but you can direct that client from a lesser cost when you need to go for the more expensive services, correct?
Yeah.
How do you do the same thing as a guardian?
Well, listen, guardianship should be the absolute last resort. If advanced directives were in place to start with, and they delegated trustworthy, competent, prudent people to manage their affairs and help them to fulfill their life's wishes, we wouldn't need guardianship. So when we have to have guardianship, we do work very closely with elder law attorneys. As a guardian, I cannot be unrepresented. I must have a guardian. I must have an attorney represent me in that case for the times when we have to go to court and filings and that sort of thing. Oftentimes most of our cases end up as a result of exploitation. Possibly a referral.
You
as
find
you
a
said,
lot of
from,
that still?
Oh, unfortunately, it's
Most of
awful. The life savings has been spent either from someone that they thought they could trust, or
But mostly it's a
misspending on
family
their own
member,
part,
right?
or these awful scams where they think they've won the lottery, and hundreds and hundreds of $1,000s later, they're now left impoverished with little means to take care of their medical concerns, caregivers, assisted living if it's necessary, to survive their remaining years.
Robin, if I ask you a question, you could look straight at that camera that you can talk to the viewers on, what would be the most single important thing that you would tell senior citizens not to do or to do in order to avoid a scam? What would you tell them?
Oh my gosh. Don't think that you won a lottery if you didn't enter a lottery.
My wife and I used to take a lady to church, and every Sunday she would talk about winning the Publishers Clearinghouse. She thought she won $10 million. I was never able to explain to her that she never won that thing.
I'm the same lady.
That's
I've
horrible.
had personal experiences with people that have gone through this, but the problem is we're dealing with professional criminals. They understand, they are compassionate. They're full of stories. I had one woman who was insistent she didn't need the money for herself, truly. She wanted to give it away to a charitable organization. She thought she could help someone else. So they had her so wrapped up in this thing. She was committed to follow through. And if it took a little more money and a little more money, but outrageous amounts of money to an unofficial organization.
When I asked you the question, I was hoping you would say, if somebody calls you and tells you you've won something, 99 to 100% of the time, it's a scam. It really is.
It is a scam.
And the other thing is, don't give your credit card number to anybody. Right. I'm thinking of a scam where somebody brought the flowers and booze to the door, and when the guy was going to give them a tip, he said, "Oh, we have to, because there's booze in there, we have to have a credit card thing to verify that we delivered it." That was just a scam to get their credit card number. Wow. Both of you, Robin and Lisa, what are some of the greatest challenges that you have in working case management and guardianships with seniors?
Several. So I'll try and highlight a few. One is when the person desperately needs assistance but believes they don't. That's quite challenging, trying to, you want to always be least restrictive. Right. You don't want to impose a guardianship unless it's absolutely necessary. We can recognize that case management would make, such a difference in that person's life, and they'd be able to continue living independently with just a little bit of help. But again, they're afraid to spend money. They don't know who to trust. So sometimes crossing that hurdle is a great challenge. Another is a lack of resources. When they're living off of $800 a month in Social Security and have no pension, and they're on a waiting list for Medicaid, finding services if they need transportation, if they need a companion, finding volunteers and local community resources that can assist at little to no cost.
Okay, Lisa, what are some of the ones you find?
Yeah, that's pretty much, I think, a lot of it. It's helping the ones out that really, it's taken so long to get like Medicaid for that to come through, the government help. And so we're I know Robin does, and I know we do too, paying out of our pocket to pay for help for these people, because we need more resources in the community. We just really needs more help.
I think that some of the recent changes that the Florida legislature has put in have complicated the delivery of certain aspects of the care system to the care needers. I'm thinking here particularly Medicaid itself. They've made it more complicated for Medicaid to be accessed. They've made it more complicated for the people that need Medicaid to understand truly what is happening, what's not happening. The ability of any type of local assistance program to develop care or direct care to someone truly in need is almost non-existent. And that's one of the reasons that Seniors Helping Seniors wants to build an endowment so that we have the capability to help seniors that live on low incomes that may need a leaky roof fix. They can't afford it. Right. And there are no programs here other than the county going out and putting a tarpaulin over the hole in the roof. That doesn't fix anything. Right. That's temporary. So, but I liked what both of you said about local resources, and I know that both of you know Kay Kaiser, our information specialist there, and you know Jennifer Helen of Seniors Helping Seniors. Right. And when I see that people like the three of you interacting, I know if she likes you, I know that I would too, and I could trust you. And that's the biggest hindrance I find in the delivery of health care services to seniors is trust. Right. And you hit on that.
Yeah, trust is huge. And with guardians, we're background checked, we're fingerprinted, we're we check our credit report. You know, and we apply the same principles to guardianship. When we have a case management case, we manage it the same way. We keep the same bookkeeping, you know, track every little transaction. We have the same, you know, efforts to put in, whether it's case manager and a guardianship. So if someone's going to look for a case manager and guardianship, make sure that they check their verification, their credentials. Yes.
Well, your areas of interest coincide and overlap so much. By working together, you bring a multifaceted team to this caregiving business that a separate case management organization or a guardianship organization would have to go to somebody else to talk about. You can do this just sitting next to each other from your office. And that's an advantage. And those are the types of things that are going to be necessary to drive down the cost of care. What haven't I asked you today?
We did talk about the advanced directives, and it's critically important. Again, you know, many of our clients, the reason we're involved in the first place is because they've been taken advantage of and exploited. Multiple changes in power of attorney. You know, it's not going to be this daughter, it's going to be that daughter. It's not going to be that daughter, it's going to be that son, it's going to be this neighbor. And so those multiple changes, it's a huge red flag. They may not have honest, trustworthy family to rely on. You know, there's a saying, and it's not my own, I can't take credit, but where there's a will, there's a family.
Right.
Okay? But knowing that you have the right person lined up, part of the advanced directives is a pre-need guardian. Highly recommended that if the time comes that you don't have the capacity to make changes to your advanced directives and to, you know, take care of your own affairs, you've named a trustworthy person to step in as guardian when it's absolutely necessary.
So you're sort of a link between the family, the attorney, and the client themselves.
And the exploiter, hopefully we can aid in removing that element and stopping the bleeding.
Okay. Yeah. Lisa, you've got a couple of seconds.
So, I think a person, they might want to go onto floridaguardians.com and they can pull up the current registered guardians. And that's probably a good resource for them. The Florida State Guardianship Association. They can get information about guardianship. And
how do they do that?
It's called Florida Guardian, www.floridaguardians.com.
Are you all listed on there?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that's a good place that's a good, honest resource. Mm-hmm. Okay. I want to thank you, Robin. I want to thank you, Lisa, for being here today. And I want to thank you for watching today's episode of Helping Seniors. If you have questions or comments, please call us at 321-473-7770. For more information on senior care and resources, visit our website at helpingseniorsofbrevard.org. And be sure to listen to Helping Seniors on radio station WMEL AM 1300 every Thursday afternoon at 1 p.m. and looking for our Helping Seniors newsletter in the center section of Senior Magazine each month and our articles and hometown news. I'm Joe Steckler, and I thank you for joining us today for Helping Seniors.